We're on page Rish Gimel in the Hebrew, and in English, 238. Shmirat Kedushat Yisrael Aidei Tziras Mechayev. Nachdor me'at yoter amok v'nekuda zu mitoch mabat masi yosir. Let's go a little deeper, talking about the yichud im Hashem Yisparach, the idea of the oneness with God. Yeshnu kol minim minhagim Yehudim minyanim manyanim being in nisuin. There are all sorts of interesting customs when it comes to marriage. Pam nagu lemoshe lemashal shayu molichem esakala kava. They used to walk the kala up in a chariot. The yom chasana chol rechave ha'ir. Imagine the whole city parading around kala on a chariot. Mabat shtrachi zenira neged noged letznius. Right? Maybe it looks like the opposite of modesty. So tzaddikim were doing this. This is a great thing. That is like the mitzvah tans. You know about the mitzvah tans? The Hasidic Rebbe will dance with a long thing, and will dance with the kala, right? Depending upon how pretty she is, that's how long the handkerchief will be. No, that's the mitzvah tans. So there's in the Litvish world, they're very against the mitzvah tans. They say it's not a modest custom, but in the Hasidic world, they say it's a very beautiful thing to do this. So anyway, so Bira Inyan Pashat B'Yom L'Macharas Ha'isha Sh'Tiyeh Segura B'Ais. The next day, she's not going to be paraded around the street. Hilo Tiret Paneb Rachov Yoter Chia Levas Yisrael. This is some sort of disgrace, right? Oh, Kiyaes or Kiyaes is fitting, but she's not going to be sort of out in the public. Now, again, he's coming from the perspective that we didn't have women playing political roles and aren't on the news and things like that. It was sort of men were exclusively in the public life and then women were not. Avalim Ihaisa Nises Lehester. She was married secretly, no one knew about it. Lamachras Mayariv in Bala Ishto, God forbid there's a fight between husband and wife. Haisa Isha Yechol Atseser Yechol Belishum Chashash. She would go on the street with no concern. She came Af Echad Lo Yoda Bechlal She Kvarnit Nisa. No one would know that she was married. Achshav Shekulam Ro'osa Rechova. Never knew that she was in the public, right? They posted online, Mazel Tov, Imtazov es Baila, Shuv lo tuchal leharot paneh b'tziba merov abusha, right? At that point, it would basically cement the marriage, because if she was to run away, we want to make sure she's changed properly. I'm not really sure that's what he's saying, but okay. So the point is that it strengthened it made the marriage more resilient, because everyone knew there was a marriage that took place. It was a public event. Okay, lachein orchim. But if you get married, if you elope secretly in Vegas, so no one knows you're married, and therefore it's not going to look strange if she was if they were not together. Lachein orchim chasanas gedolos mefarster. So he organized these big marriages. Tachas a chuppah is chayva kala. Anisha echas lechasan zeh. If the farsim zos at the chuppah there's a hischayvos. We are exclusive to each other. The ani ladodi expression, right? Mishum shezeh mash shomer al kedusha Yisrael. And that's what keeps the marriage strong. Is that everybody knows that they're now together. A public wedding. Okay.
I think that's
To give nachas, people want nachas. Okay. Ikaron zeh nachon gam benogea liyachas shalana and kushba. Now we can apply this to our relationship with Hashem. Im nitzor ezo shiu mechayev lavas Hashem shalano kigon b'shalom me'ayom meshach tkufos misyamis lo yichnas lebeisi b'shum itonim magazana. He hates magazines. This guy. If we don't bring any magazines to my house, kuli shilcha. So all of it will be yours. Meaning, if I make a day that is exclusive for you, Hashem, namely Shabbos, so my relationship is publicly declared as being exclusive for God. So when you establish exclusivity in a relationship, it makes you very close, right? By the way, think about this. You ever tell someone a secret? Like, I'm just telling you. Obviously, you tell just them, or you're telling everybody, but I'm just telling you the secret. So what you do in that moment is you create a bond. Right? You feel close to someone until you see. Why? Not because it's salacious or it's juicy information. You feel a bond because there's an inner trust, something that only takes place here. Nobody else can know about it for the next 5 minutes. So nobody can know about it. And what you've done is you forged a connection because there's a yichud, there's exclusivity in that relationship. There's something. Right. I'm saying so. Secrets aren't really secrets, right? A Jewish secret is something you tell one person at a time. And if you live a life of oneness with God, so we have kigmol alai imo, which is ikar lo lahashir afilu pinot pitanot bilvavenu or bilibenu lamashu acher chutz makadosh baruch hu. We have no room for anything else in our life other than Hashem. Right? Once you declare a life of oneness, there is nothing else. Right? That was what he was establishing in the first section of this chapter. The Yichud Hashem, the goal of Yichud Hashem is to have that bond where nothing else takes away. And that's the sentiment on Shabbos, that everything else is sort of wiped clean. There's nothing else on our tables. Torah Yeshnam Targ mitzvahs. We have 613 commandments in the Torah, right? Ma'atayim arba'im ushmona mitzvos aseh. Thank you. We have 248 mitzvahs aseh, and thank you so much. And shlosh meot v'shishim v'chamesh 365 mitzvos los aseh, negative commandments. Lavin. Echad halavim. One of those negative commandments is shelo yashav akum v'artzenu. Didn't have idolaters dwelling in the land, right? That's why we have a mitzvah to rid idolatry from the land the moment we move there. 7 nations, all were idolaters. Oh, thank you. That was nice. So there is a mitzvah to eradicate avodah zarah from the land. Also, Rambam is Yisrael to keep Aleh, when we are in charge of the land, can't let them live there. Interesting, right? Vafilu Yoshev Yeshivas Arai, over mimakom lamakom b'schora, lo yavor b'artzenu. Right? Except if they want to open up some good Thai restaurants, that's fine. But there's one condition that they could live among us. They decide to live by the basic rules of humanity of the Sheva Mitzvah Noach. Shnemar lo yoshvu ba'artzecha afilu lefisha, even temporarily. Anyone who wants to enter land, the rule should be, if it was governed by halacha, that you have to say, I'm not going to violate any of the 7 commandments. Right? You have to be what's called the ben Noach. Correct. Yeah. So they are not to worship idols, not to curse God, not to murder, adultery, steal, eat flesh, right? And a court system and right. So, but that's the condition upon living there. So now let's explain. Is Shlomo Melech Linamel Yafo Goy Meitalia. Let's imagine that Shlomo Melech is ruling. Now, why Shlomo? Because the Medrash, the Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer says that Shlomo is one of those kings who had complete rule over the world when he was king. There were other kings like that who were not Jewish who had that. Shlomo was one of them who had complete dominion over the world. You have people like Nimrod as well who had that at one point. So Shlomo has this. And let's say someone arrives in the port of Jaffa. Okay? Not sure it was a port back then, and he comes from Italy. Shlomo Hashem, what do you want from Israel? Vehu Motzias passport Italki, brings it as Italian passport. Amar Anitayar, I'm a tourist. It's only Lavor Derech Eretz Yisrael, like I want to go through Eretz Yisrael. I want to go to Iraq, right? Posek Rambam, the Rambam says, Shim Marshim Lo Likanes, that if we let him enter, Ovrim Alav Me'at Torah, because he's not a Madua, Ma pesher hanochit hazot. Im zoi America shetzrichim visa kedei likanis betchuma. Is this you need a visa to enter? Teretzu taros tearu latzmechem. Imagine yourselves. Chasim ekala acha chuppah. Nas mecheder yichud mityashin. As lepet nishmas tefika badelis. There's a knock on the door in the yichud room. In poskim me'at et adelet misholem et haomet sham matarot. What do you want? And he wrote to Raklav or derech. I want to pass through this. There's a shortcut. Go through the yichud room. I'll make my way over to the kitchen. Omer lo, no. This is the yichud room. You can't be in here. Understand? Paskanut ta'avor misaviv. Go around. Go the other way. Right. Eretz Yisrael kibiyachol cheder hayichud shoshim isparach im amo Yisrael. This is appropriate. We're learning this today. Eretz Yisrael is the cheder yichud with us and Hashem. Klal Yisrael, Yoshu be'Eretz Yisrael. Jewish people are sitting in Eretz Yisrael. Makom hamikdash ve'hachayu im Hashem yisparach. They're living with God. Im kedusha shelo, with the sanctity. Haya zeh kesher ishi. It's a personal connection. Bal yituar, that could not be described. Lachein lagoy aser haya la'avor sham afilu rega. Right, he means in the context of Akum. In fact, the word goy and Akum are used interchangeably in the Gemaras, and that's because it used to always say, it used to say Akum. They edited that out, not to make all non-Jews feel like they were idolaters, and not to create anti-Semitic things. And then when they brought the new Gemaras back, they went back to Akum again. But like originally, they would say, for the middle, many years, they would say goy inside. Yeah. Christianity is probably more of a problem inside of Avodah Zarah than is Islam, because Islam believes in one God. Right, yeah. Right. So the Rambam is not a Christianity may be more of a problem. Right. It depends what your view and which denomination you come from. What your view of the Trinity is, what the view of God. Right.
In the Torah.
Right. 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 Yeah, it's double standard. Yeah, but we're better. That's the message, right? Yeah. That's what everyone believes. No, it's true. They wouldn't let us. Moav and Ammon wouldn't let us pass through, and they wouldn't give us bread, and there is that. Yeah, yeah. No, it's sometimes very hard. We call hasbara. It's hard to explain to the news why things that we are doing inside self-defense are not incredibly evil, and sometimes it's hard to explain that. I agree. Sometimes it's hard to explain to ourselves. True, but this is the Eretz Yisrael is different than any other land in the world. And if Jews were the dominant ruling party in France, it would be prohibited to not let someone through. Because it's a din in Eretz Yisrael. It's not a din in France, or it's not a din in Jewry. It's a din in Eretz Yisrael, right? So the same thing with the United States, right? I know it's hard to say that, like, oh, Israel should have a double standard, but truth is that, yeah, no, America was founded on the principles of letting people in who are in need of help, and that is something fundamental to this country. Again, you have to do it in a way that works the country, but it's true, and it's frightening when we talk about not. I think say what you will about the governor in Florida, DeSantis. I'm hoping he'll change his mind if he becomes president. Say, let all the Palestinians here out of Israel. Great, but that would be my goal. Well, then we'll leave. It's a big ocean between us. I don't think their little makeshift missiles can reach Israel. So, but we'll do a switch, do a land swap. We'll give them all of Idaho. There's right. No. So the truth is though that let's just return. So the idea is that Eretz Yisrael is a cheder yichud. In other words, Eretz Yisrael is the heartbeat of the world, and is the holiest place, and it's the cheder yichud with Bnei Yisrael and Hashem. And for us, whatever we are, 0.1%, 1% of the world's population, not even, right? 0.2, whatever we are. And we have a little piece of land, 0.2. 0.2, we have a piece of land that's ours. That's it. We're very small. We're very small, and that's all we have is that land. And that's how we have to think of it. The whole notion of anyone else even coming through that land is absurd if you think about the amount of property and land there is elsewhere. But okay, but it's hard to explain that on a. Like I said, Hasbara is not a strong suit because there is okay. So anyway, so go around Eretz Yisrael Kiviyachol Cheder Yichod Shel Shem Yisparach Im Amo Yisrael Klal Yisrael Yeshno Be'Eretz Yisrael Makom Hamikdash. The Chayum Hashem Yisparach. We live with God there. Ima Kedusha Shelo Kesher Ishi Bal Yitur. It's a personal connection. We can't explain to anyone else. Can't say, oh, sorry, cut on through this room. It's fine. It doesn't mean any guy. It means someone who doesn't accept the Shem, someone who's dedicated to murder, right? Or these things that are violating the standards of the Yichud room. Masu b'nei Yisrael himratzu kitas me modernitzia. It's modernization. Madula chayot rak im Hashem. Well, I live just with God. They let them in the Yichud. Kol many dvarim shel goyim, all the sorts of things, the values that we don't want. V'zeh shavru et kol hakasher. The connection is lost. That's what caused us to go into Galus. This is some harif stuff here, but it's take it to heart. Yeah, Malach would be. Yeah. Oh yeah. Right, and they don't have a court system, and they don't have elections. They elected in one party, and that's it. They never. I'm saying those criminals in Gaza are not tried narcotics.
No.
Yeah, but they're in Eretz Yisrael, and anyway, we don't have a religious Medina at this point anyway, so it's a little bit of a moot point, but still. Most posts can understand the Rambam, the obligation of Shev Mitzvah, instead of court systems, that it's a just court system. It doesn't mean that it's al pi Torah mishpat. It doesn't mean it's a base thing. But it means, well, we have in the United States, a court system, as flawed as it is, it's a just court system for the most part, and it's one that fits into the category of setting up dinner. Right? That seems to be that type of thing. And most democracies seem to have that kind of system. No, they would have to, absolutely. Whether or not it's a halachic or a secular one like we have now, they would have to abide by a regular court system. And they'd be better off because right now, as of now, there's no capital punishment in Israel. They'd be better off than with the Sharia law. Just a thought. But okay. 2,000 years ago, we have to understand what is life in the Yichud room with God. That's the imagery we want to work with. Not to give room for the in the Cheder Yichud with us. Shalano Mishana Tokef Pe'inyan HaShabbos. So it comes in our lives in the form of a changed form in the form of Shabbos. So remember, we keep talking about sanctuary in time and in place and in person. Am Yisrael is the person. Sanctuary in time would be Shabbos, and in place would be Eretz Yisrael and Makom HaMikdash. So Shabbos is our Yichud room. Pasak Rambam Ben Noach Sheratz Lasos Mitzvah Mishar Mitzvos Torah K'day L'Kabel. If a non-Jew wants to perform mitzvahs, no problem. Ein monos lasos about it. Comes to you, says, "I'd like to shake your lulav." Give him the lulav. Teach him. Wonderful. You can make a bracha. Right? We can't make a bracha. Fine. Rabbeinu Tam. Right? But let him shake the lulav. No issue. Wonderful. Wants to bring a carbon. Bring a carbon. Right? No issue. Or send a carbon. Right? In fact, we had many carbonos offered by non-Jews. But, right, you give tzedakah, mekabel menu, no sin tzedakah, mekabel menu. There's a limit to tzedakah if they give a davar misuyam to the Beis Hamikdash. The Gemara tells us that they can't donate a set object to the temple. They can donate money. Because we don't want someone saying, "Hey, that was the Smith menorah. I want that back. I want the thing back." You know, we don't want someone's name on the object of the Mikdash. But if they give cash, which is fungible, they're allowed to donate that to the Mikdash. I heard a comedian once say that if we figured out our fundraising little sign like a mezuzah is donated by this one, it'd be like every object in the church. This is this family. They would never figure. We figured out how to really micro. You know, this poppy seed this morning donated by. Right. So fine. So that Rambam says that that's not a problem. They can observe mitzvahs. Go yachol im urod selaniach tefillin. Tzitzis. Kol mezuzah. Aflachol matzah mor v'arba kosos. He will receive a reward for doing so, according to Rambam. That is an amazing concept. However, what's the one exception? And Shabbos. Avlachol matzah mor v'arba kosos. V'kabel kachstar. Amam al lo kimo Yehudi. Ki gadol amitzuva osa mishena mitzvah osa. Ach mikomakom. And it's not like a Jew because when you're commanded to do it, it's on a higher level because you have a yetzer hara not to do it. There's nothing preventing you from doing mitzvahs. By the way, who's on a higher level? Let's say a woman is not obligated mitzvah shazman graman. She wants to do a mitzvah shazman graman. So you're gonna study Torah. You're not obligated in kviyas itim for Torah, but you get a mitzvah to study Torah. So the question is, who gets a bigger mitzvah, a man or a woman? That's the Gemara. Gemara says a man. Why? Because men wrote the Gemara. No. Why? Because why? Because the principle is that if you have a mitzvah, you're going to want not to do it. The yetzer hara is not to do it. So it's harder to fight that off. So it certainly is praiseworthy when someone chooses to do a mitzvah, their own volition. Without a doubt, that comes with its own challenges. And it's certainly something I don't have Hashem's scale, but I certainly imagine it's really valuable. Exactly. Well, there is one exception for Shabbos. Chutz mishabbos. Shabbos nemar noch mish Shabbos chayav misa. That's why there was a tradition which Rav Schwartzal felt this was not necessarily the way we paskin. A lot of places, I don't know about the din of paskin, but they used to say that people who were non-Jewish who were practicing for Shabbos would violate Shabbos in some way, but we don't paskin like that really. I mean, you're training to do real Shabbos, right? I don't think we go tell people to violate Shabbos. Well, that's where it comes from. This idea but I don't know practically that we actually tell people that, because if you're practicing, you're already part of it. You're already there. It's like the same thing. I know he said by Yontif. Normally, you cannot invite non-Jews to a Yontif meal. It's not Shabbos. Shabbos meal you can have them over. Yontif not, because Ochel Nefesh, preparing food, is a heter only for preparing food for Jews. So if you're going to have non-Jewish relatives or whatever at a Seder, should have them over for the Seder that's on Shabbos, not Seder that's on Shabbos. Now, what happens? What happens if someone's studying to be Jewish? Schwartz said absolutely it's fine. No question. Not a question. Yeah, absolutely. So it's Yontif. It's any Yontif. I don't know how that became Pesach, but it's any Yontif. Shavuos also. Forgotten Yontif. Can't do Ochel Nefesh for someone who's not Jewish. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that, but maybe. Well, when you open the door and you yell "Shach Chamascha ala Goyim," pour your wrath out against the nations, and you have your pitchfork and your torch in your hand, you want to be a little careful who's in your house when you do that. So I don't know. I know that it's probably in an Ochel Nefesh and Yontif food preparation. That's why Java is not a problem. It's very important if some people have children or relatives who've intermarried to be makar of them, to bring them closer, to keep them in the family. And any way you can, you try to figure that out. Anyway, right? You don't judge, you don't do tzitzis checks at the door. Any way to keep people closer, we have to. We have an obligation to do so. Yeah, oh, that's a good topic for Shabbos Shuvah. Is that a real thing or myth? It actually is, I believe, a myth, and it's based upon a lot of the great Torah myths are based on comments from Rabbeinu Tam, like Rashi's daughters putting on tefillin, all this stuff, which was mutter, but the Gemara says Michal bat Shaul put on tefillin. The Gemara tells us that Michal put on tefillin. So the Gemara says that what's the reason why? It's the Magen Avram actually. What's the reason why women don't put on tefillin? It's a mitzvah to say Shazman Grama. It's time bound mitzvah. We don't put on at night, so you're not obligated. So why not do it? Right? They could do it. You can sit in a sukkah if you like. Sephardim don't make a bracha on the sukkah. Ashkenazim do make a bracha on the sukkah. The Rambam says you don't make a bracha on mitzvah. Shazman Grama. They are commanded on. The Rabbeinu Tam says you do. So Ashkenazic women will make a bracha on the shekel lulav. Sephardic women do not make a bracha on the shekel lulav. Right? Fine, but everyone says you can do a mitzvah. So what about tefillin? All right, you could if you want, right? What's the problem? So they say tefillin requires gufnaki. Everyone says, oh, is this an anti-woman thing? It's not. Gufnaki has to do with that everyone has a din of gufnaki with tefillin. One has to be careful what they eat beforehand, right? And they don't have to run to the bathroom. And that's fine. So no one should put on tefillin if they're not careful, or they're not feeling well, or they have an upset stomach. So men have the obligations, they do it. So it used to be tzaddikim would put tefillin all day long. I've never seen wears tefillin all day long. But if you're not on that level, you put it on in Shachris, you take your tefillin off afterwards. We normally teach kids to do a mitzvah at age 6 or 7. We don't teach bar mitzvah boys at age 6 to put on tefillin because gufnaki. They don't have any control. So we start at age 12 and 10 months or 11 months. So no one should be doing it unless they have to do it. That became Magen Avram's approach. That's why tefillin became a thing. It's not because it's a man's garment. It's not because it's a mitzvah says Shazman Grama, because that doesn't stop other mitzvahs. And therefore, I always say, if you ever are in a shul and you see a woman wearing tefillin, don't shout, don't stare. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not done because of the gufnaki. Absolutely right. It's not a din of mikvah. It has nothing to do with mikvah. It has to do with don't eat a lot of cholent the day before. The stomach problems, right? Right. Because you avoid doing a mitzvah that could possibly be disgraced if you don't have to do it. Tefillin are very holy, so no one should do it unless they have to, and only men have to. Yeah, you are going to get stares, and it's not going to fit in here. But no one would stone you, and you probably shouldn't because it's not done. That's the Magen Avram says. But I'm just saying, if you see someone doing it, don't shout at them because they're definitely not doing it. They're definitely doing a mitzvah. I'm not telling them to do it. No, it's not Begadish. It's not Begadish. It's yeah. So Rabbeinu Tam says in Tosfos they would say a bracha, and the Rambam would say no. Sephardim would not, and Ashkenazim would make a bracha. Same thing by tefillin. But anyway, this is all academic. But I'm giving the reason why I'm giving the reason why it happens. People should understand the origin of the mitzvahs and why they. Now, what was the other thing we mentioned? We mentioned tefillin. What was the other thing I was speaking about before? Mitzvah Seishvan. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We do teach them that. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, the bar mitzvah teacher or the rabbi or someone, the parents teaching this. Yeah, supposed to. So now it's not my thing, but I know that a lot of people, because they watch tzaddikim wearing tefillin all day long, so they have the kids doing that in kol. They have like Rav Nevin tells kol, they'll all do it. Fine, so these are people sitting in kol all day long, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't have. Your own voice. Right. Yeah. Right. No, they don't. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to sleep in your tent. Right. Okay. So we mentioned that one mitzvah to say Shazman Grama, right? And talked about the sort of sacred nature, and we were talking about myths, right? And Rabbeinu Tam being the one. So what was the other one we mentioned? So about tefillin and sitting shiva for someone who intermarries. So there is a comment it's unclear what exactly it means and subject to interpretation about a child who had intermarried, and I think it's Rabbeinu Tam or someone else. It's brought down in Tosfos. I think it was Rabbeinu Tam or Rabbeinu Gershom, I don't remember who it was, but sat Shiva for a child who had become an apostate or whatever it was. So it's unclear what that means. So most say that doesn't mean when they intermarried or when they became. It means when they died, parents still held they were worthy of mourning. So that became a myth that you said Shiva for a person who intermarries. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's nowhere.
Now, there's a lot of history of this question. So you can fill books with this. So I'm just giving you the origin of it. This is like a 9-hour lecture series, if you want. But this is the beginning of the discussion. It starts with the comment that is misunderstood. Yeah. What? Well, yeah, it changes everything, but it's a good topic for like a Shabbos Shuvah and how we interact with people who are not religious in our families. I'll look it up. I have a Yad Moshe. Look it up. Okay, let's finish this section. So Shabbos is godless matzricha pratios. Shabbos is a great institution that requires details. Shum goy eno yochel likanes Shabbos. No guy can enter Shabbos. Zeu shanu omrim betfila shachris. So Shabbos lo nasato Hashem lo kenu lo goy aratzos lo in chaltomo kenu lo v'dei fasilim v'gam menucha solo yishkenu arelim ki l'sholam cha nasata be'av. So Shabbos is not given to the other nations, not given to those who worship idols. Shabbos is ahava. It is love. In Neshika, it's a kiss. Kesher ben Yehudi l'Hashem's bracha. It's a connection between the Jew and Hashem. Yachas kazeh shalpanim apanim tzarich pratis. This connection requires details. Efshar levatei ahava be'olam hachitzoni. We don't express love in the world, in the external world. Lachen, ki Hashem yisbarach lakach osanu lios lo la'am. When Hashem took us to as a nation, miyad kishiyatz anu mimitzrayim hu hodiu lanu ve'el eschem el eretz vat chalav udvash, and I'll bring you up to the land of flowing with milk and honey. Before the wedding, they're already speaking about their apartment, their first house, and they're furnishing, right? I'm going to take you to the Eretz of Chalav Udvash. Saw that Rabbi Wine, in one of his books, storybooks, he said that he met someone, a survivor, and he asked him how he survived the war. And the dark years of the Holocaust, and he said that right before the war, he was in Israel, pre-state Palestine, and he purchased a piece of property. And then he went back to Europe, and the war broke out, and he was taken into a camp. And he had, in his mind, spent the entire time at the camp, he said, furnishing the apartment. He knew the measurements, he knew exactly what it was. Whole time he's picturing the curtains, he's picturing the couch and this and this, and that was what got him through. And so you can imagine the Chassan and Kala, right before the wedding, right? They're already planning. They have the furniture planned out. They got the trip to IKEA. They have the registry, and they're all excited. And they're going to lay out all the furniture. And that is the relationship with us and Hashem, right? Like a chas and makala, even beforehand, before the wedding. We're going to go to land of milk and honey. So what do you need a dira? Harayeshna gina, as a garden. Ubasaf salim shnitin l'shavas sham u'shocheach. There's couches there in the garden to sit and to rest. Hateretzu achasim rakala zekukim lepratius. Chaim uchachim od lifnei achupa tachnein hecham b'diuk yagor. You need to know exactly where they're going to live, because the relationship between chas and kala is a private one. I'm going to bring you to Eretz Yisrael, the Beis Hamikdash. Sham yebiyachad. We're going to be together there. Sham eshpoch aleichem es abasi. I will spill my love before you. Shamati pam Yehudi chilonim mitpateh. I once heard a secular Jew say, Shabbos beit hasohar. Shabbos is a prison. I have a religious Jew say that. Tefillah Shemona Esrei yidichora beit sohar. Shemona Esrei. How much longer, right? You have to sit on Yom Noraim when you're little, look at the machzer, and you do this move, try to compress, like you have this hydraulic press, move to the end of the sitter, see how much we have left, right? Is he like how long is it going to be? So it's torturous. And efshar lazuz, we can't move. Kivyachol the ulim im Hashem Yisparach. We're locked up with God. Val hayodim. This is one of those moments in your life when you realize you're reading lessons. It's coming, right? It's starting. Aval hayodim atem mahu be'etzem beit asor. Do you know what is prison? So Shabbos cheder yichud. You're not locked away from the world. You're locked in with God. Hakala einu yachol livrach misham kimuva. And we can't run. We don't want to leave. We're the kala. Klal Yisrael. Imi rotze efsharuta liftoch et hadelet livrach. If you want to go out and leave, avalim he rotze lishar kivyachol neula sham zeu yichud. Together, Shabbos cheder yichud. Akanachnu shemis brachafilo malachim. Even the angels in imvakshem mehem kivyachol shiazvut cheder b'Shabbos. We say to the malach, we come in Friday night, and what do we say when we get home? Tzeichem l'shalom. You don't say tzeichem, you say b'shiftachem l'shalom. Sfardim don't say tzeichem, right? But it's a similar idea. You're going to come back. Malach shalom. Ki b'Shabbos anu nimtzaim bratis m'Shem Yisparach. Because we're one. We don't need the angels now at this point, right? We're one with Hashem. There's a certain security that has been established with God in that moment, and nothing else is needed. I do think that idea has to be addressed, that people feeling trapped by religion is a very real feeling. A lot of people feel like that. And one of the things we can do is we can change our presentation. How do we present religion to the people we love and people, our children and our students? Is it something that is like you may not do this? Like, yes, there are 39 things you can't do on Shabbos. There's a lot of great things. That's what the Sefer is about. Mm-hmm. And if we present it as you're locked in, you're chained up, I think it does create a negative impact, a negative impression about the day of Shabbos and religion in general.